All right.
And we're live.
We're live. We be live everywhere except Twitch because Twitch
Oh,
doesn't like the
no.
title. Wait, okay. I'm just gonna change the title for Twitch to AR News.
168.
No, I'm just saying AR News. Save changes. All right, let's try again for Twitch is very sensitive about the titles. If they think our titles are controversial, they won't let us go live. But we're now live on Twitch as well, so we be live everywhere on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch now. Wow,
It's happening.
what was wrong with our title? Let me see. What do you think it is?
News.
Okay, but now we're live everywhere, so we're going to be talking about the news on religion, atheism, secularism, politics, and culture, and everything in between. And we're gonna sometimes we cover some things that have nothing to do with religion, just so that some people could get triggered and say, "What does this have to do with religion?" We did it just for you, just so we could make you cry. Sometimes we talk about something that has nothing to do with religion because we want to see you cry. Anyway.
Well, that's Armin's attitude. Not mine.
All right.
Yeah, so are we ready for the first news?
We are.
Are we? Oh, wait, can you tell people about before we start covering the news, tell people why they should subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description.
Because we are so generous to our newsletter subscribers. You get so many gifts. So one of them is you get a free PDF of Armin's book. Okay. Bestseller on Amazon. And the second one being, most importantly, no offense, not kidding, is we have our Blasphemous Art booklet. So you get a free ebook of some of the best blasphemy. No, not some of the best blasphemy you can find.
Yes.
And
beautiful art, free for our newsletter subscribers.
Yes. And you get it every week, multiple times a week.
Yes. Anyways, these were just excuses for me to get ready to have all the news up and everything. Anyways, I'm ready now. So
we're here.
Can we clap for the first news?
Yeah.
First news.
German priests protest Vatican decree by blessing queer couples. So, dozens of priests in Germany are protesting against the Vatican with plans to live stream blessings of homosexual couples. The movement comes after Pope Francis announced that Catholic priests could not bless same-sex unions because, quote, God does not bless sin. The groups in Germany have voiced their criticism of the Vatican's opinion. A statement titled "Love Wins," or actually however you say that in German, was signed by Catholic theology professors in the country protesting the decision. Priests are now coming forth to show their support for same-sex couples. The priests involved have also published a list of upcoming church services to bless couples, gay or same-sex couples publicly. Since many of the events will occur across the country on or around May 10th, they will be live streamed. So actually, they were live streamed. The priests have been praised by supporters of same-sex relationships for their decision to challenge Pope Francis's stance.
I mean, isn't the point of isn't following the Pope within the definition of being Catholic? Like, are you still like oh, we're Catholics and we're gonna defy the Pope? But I mean,
yeah,
are you a Catholic? I mean, here's a hint. Okay, hold on. Here's a hint. So you're telling me that you are protesting against the Pope. Protesting. That reminds me of something. Protesting.
Gets flashbacks to the Reformation.
I mean, are you like honestly like? Isn't that like within their dogma that they're by definition they're supposed to be the followers of the Pope? I don't understand. Somebody explain this to me. Rivka.
You're muted.
Rivka, muted. Rivka, your audio is not there.
Isn't he also supposed to be infallible? He's God's
Yes.
messenger on earth.
Yeah.
I'm hearing echo.
Me too.
Yeah, Susie, our audio is very high, so you need to stop. Yes.
So
that whole go on.
I was going to say, are they going to perform a 99 ceremonies and nail the marriage licenses to the church door?
Yeah. Yes.
So, I mean, he is supposed to be God's messenger on earth, and he is apparently supposed to be infallible, except for what they don't think he's infallible about.
Well, actually, it's interesting because Pope Francis's previous statements, specifically regarding same-sex marriage or civil unions or couples in general, like I don't know if this is a fact, but I feel like he's talked more about same-sex relationships like than any other priest before, at least in my awareness. And some of his statements that he said previously are very controversial to the point that other cardinals and bishops have had to try to make these apologetics for his infallibility, but also these statements he's making, which seem to go against like long-standing dogma. So they have all of these ways that they phrase it, where it's like, well, he's supposed to be infallible, like in his, I can't remember what it was exactly, but his decisions regarding the church, but like him as a person is fallible. So like, kind of trying to say, like,
his hippie popeness. His hippie popeness is not always infallible.
Yeah. But I thought this was really funny, like really similar to what Armin was saying, like by what authority are you doing this? By what scriptural authority? Like, he's the Pope. He is literally the authority. So
yeah, according to their
So they're by their own authority, which right then and there tells you, like, so then why are you Catholic?
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be following Pope.
So I actually have another thing I want to say. This is not going to be popular, but I also want to criticize the LGBT couples who are going along with this, giving legitimacy to anything labeled as Catholic or Christian, right? So this all sounds like, oh my God, look, yay, these priests are like doing gay weddings and stuff. This is progress and stuff. I mean, yeah, congratulations to some priests. Apparently, we're giving out cookies for not being bigots and homophobes these days. Like, this doesn't deserve congratulations. Like, hey, yay, you're not a homophobe. Here's a cookie. But I mean, this is like maybe some progress for these priests. However, for the gay couples, this is not progress for them. They are legitimizing and giving promotion for an institution that has been historically and even now against not just their rights but their entire existence, so, and their identity and their happiness. So don't do that. I mean, I'm against it. I know, like, some people think like, oh, Armin, no, this is like you're criticizing the wrong people. No, I'm against it. I don't care if you're gay or straight. If you legitimize the Catholic Church in any way, if you take part in these, if you let a Catholic priest, do a live stream on your gay couple, you're excusing an institution that doesn't deserve any protection or any excuse for justification for their existence. This whole institution needs to be destroyed and, crushed and annihilated, and you guys are keeping it relevant. So no, don't do that. Sorry, gay couples. I hope these gay couples join other gay people who have completely abandoned the church.
I think that's a very good point. But also, I think I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually a little bit of marketing. Of course, it's marketing from the or at least these specific churches or these specific dioceses. Because I also know that the German church is going through a huge scandal right now over a lawsuit that happened recently because nuns were, how can I say this for YouTube? Nuns were selling children to adult men. And so I feel like this is like, maybe I'm being too cynical, but like this feels
actually
like
I agree with you. I agree with you about the marketing, because it's for them, maybe, you know, it's a specific thing related to the scandal. But where I live, all these churches have signs, rainbow flags, you know, you can come here. We're, you know, we don't hate you kind of advertising. And I feel like that churches are looking for people because they don't have the numbers that they used to have. And very often when people are not afforded equal rights and there's no equity in really basic things, you know, marriage, voting, going to school, all these things, that they, once they're given that, they sometimes seem to very much follow the mainstream. Like all of a sudden they're like, okay, now we can get married, so now we go to church, and now we're gonna, you know, have the, you know, happy family, consuming many goods, and or whatever that is, you know. Now all of a sudden you're allowed to go to, they can't exclude people on their gender, so now you have women, you know, wanting to be in all these, not maybe they want to, but it's also sort of taking some of that for yourself that you feel like you were cheated of. And I think the church understands that. If people are getting married now, and marriage has a lot to do often for most people with religiosity, especially once they have kids, they're shopping for customers.
Yeah. I think especially in a country as secular and modern as Germany, like they're trying to fall back onto certain cultural aspects of it, of what's familiar and seen as like a rite of passage for a lot of people. Which like culturally I understand. But are there any comments in the live chat that you want to highlight, Armin?
Yes, I want to attack our own community.
Well, don't put it that way.
Okay, so Ghostman is saying, Armin, we still need to encourage a step forward, regardless of how small they are. Going against the Pope is a huge thing, I'm assuming, and may lead to more revolts within the church. Yeah, I agree that we should have step forwards, even if they're small. And that's why I'm against this, because I think this is a step backward. Having gay couples endorsing the brand, the Catholic brand, is a step backwards, and that's why I'm against it. But yeah, I agree with small steps if in the right direction. They don't have to be big steps, but I'm against this because this is not a step forward. Gaijin, yeah, guys, you don't understand. I've seen this so many times before. This is a desperate attempt for religions to. This is a defense mechanism against pressure. Without these defense mechanisms, these religions and their influence will die out faster. This is not a good thing. This is bad. This is a bad thing. So, Gaijin American saying it's not about legitimizing the Catholic Church. It completely is. No. It is exactly about legitimizing the Catholic Church. You got it wrong in the first sentence. The Catholic Church is about snapping the head of the Pope and taking his power for yourself.
Then it's not the Catholic Church.
No, this is completely wrong. This is the unpopularity of the position of the Pope is exactly the opposite of what Gaijin American is saying, because the unpopularity of this position in mainstream, you realize that associating the Catholic brand with that, this is the desperate attempt to see if it's possible to maintain the Catholic brand without associating it with this unpopular position that the Pope is getting. This is a defense of the Catholic brand, and you should not let the Catholic brand be defended. There is no excuse for defending the Catholic brand. Okay. And here's an interesting take. This is amazing. Asian American saying, you sound like the CCPR men. Amazing. That's fantastic. Wow. All right. Yeah, sure. I going against the Catholic Church sounds like the CCP. Guys, how dumb do you have to be to not see that the way I want to attack the Catholic Church is by advocating against it? It involves no force. It doesn't involve destroying churches or forcing people to not practice their belief. It's about conversations. It's about promoting certain ideas over others. Is the CCP fighting against Islam and Christianity by trying to promote ideas that are better than Islam and Christianity? Or are they shutting down mosques and churches and putting people in concentration camps? That is an absolutely insane comparison. And I know, guys, and you can see that I am Asian American is a patron of us, and but I don't know. Even people who support us financially, when I see dumb takes like this, I have to call it out. All right.
Two more things I wanted to highlight. Rabbit Atheist saying churches are losing.
No, sorry, I missed it. Go.
Churches are losing numbers, so sins get redefined to get more people in. A sign of the end for them. Rivka is correct. Rabbit Atheist is also correct. Like in 2020, they were giving out plenary indulgences at this Urbi et Orbi event, and I was like, "What? You're just giving? Oh, we're just giving out because it's the pandemic. We're just giving out plenary like."
Yeah.
And then there was also, this is hilarious, from Aditya. Me when Armin says I will criticize our own community, and then running smoke emojis.
All right, well, here's another one. I disagree with Armin. I fully support LGBT. Wow, congratulations, you're not a homophobe. Couples and their normalization in society. If Christians accept them more, Christianity will become the most LGBT-friendly religion. I want Christianity to end. I don't want it to become the most LGBT-friendly religion. Christianity will never be this is insanity. Okay, Christianity will never be LGBT-friendly. Christians will be LGBT-friendly by ignoring Christianity. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, they will always be anti-LGBT. There is no hope for them. Christians and Muslims can be more LGBT by ignoring their religion. Their religion will always be against LGBT. Let me see what some other...
And Miriam is also a Christian, so...
I know. That's why I target her more. Or him. him. Wait, hold on. There was another thing. I think there was Katie has a good point. But
Goddess Katie, Catholicism, Germany, please have mercy on me. I'm about to die. I will stop harming people in any way. And then the moment you let your guard down, there will be a dagger right up your throat.
Right. So here's another thing. Asian American is saying, I was talking about you saying the Catholic Church needs to be annihilated. Yes, and I stand by it. That is not at all like the CCP. How do you not get that? There's a difference between destroying an institution by talking against it and telling people what it stands for and advocating against it, and somebody actually going out and crushing down people's buildings and forcing people not to practice their ideas. How do you not see the difference? If you don't see the difference, honestly, I don't know if there's any hope for you. Like, oh yeah, I sound like the CCP because I want to destroy the Catholic Church by telling people what it stands for and what its purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that as similar to a government forcing people out of their churches? Do you see one of them is like, hey, people, this is the Catholic Church. That's how I want to annihilate the Catholic Church. The other one are like, oh, this is the church you go to? I will destroy it. Oh, I'm going to take your Bibles away. I'm not going to let you pray. Do you not see the difference between these two things? Anyways. Do you guys want to add anything before we bring up the...
No, I'm right there with you.
Okay, cool. All right, I see that we cannot clap for the next news at all.
Correct.
So, next news.
Okay, next news. Iranian gay man beheaded by family in quote-unquote honor killing in Ahvaz, Iran. On May 4th, 20-year-old Ali Reza, or just Ali, Faisali Monfared, was murdered in the Iranian city of Ahvaz by 3 male suspects, including his half-brother. The motive for his murder came when the killers found out that he was exempt from Iranian military service on the grounds of, quote, moral and sexual depravities such as transsexualism. On May 7th and May 8th, Iranian news organizations outside of the Islamic Republic reported the murder. Iran Wire said on their website that on May 4th, Ali Reza's half-brother got him into a car and drove him outside the city where he was murdered. Ali's partner told the activist group Six Rang, meaning six colors, that the alleged murderer had called Ali's mother to tell her where to find her son's severed body. Radio Zamane, an Amsterdam-based Persian language radio channel, reported the Iranian authorities arrested the three men. Fazali Mofared's partner, Bayat, said to Six Rang that Ali had been preparing to flee to Turkey and to further seek asylum in Europe.
So the story is that I think the documents that showed that he doesn't need to go to military service, it did mention is because of his sexuality, and they considered it to be like a disease or like a mental disorder, and that's why he was let off. Because in Iran there's mandatory military service for all men, but he was able to not go because of his. Is he? I don't know. You mentioned both. Is he gay or is he trans? Because you mentioned both. I think there seems to be a confusion.
I think that might be part of the Iranian state policy of having gay men basically transition to being women.
But okay, so I'm just gonna go with what these people, what Masin Ali-Nejad is saying. Is okay, so he's just gay, but in Iran there's a confusion between gay and trans, so I think that might be the source of confusion. But they consider his homosexuality to be a mental disorder over there. By the way, YouTube, that's not my thinking, please. This is just the news. Okay, god damn it, we're gonna get a strike on this, aren't we? And that's why they let him off military service. But they put that on his card or his documentation, and that's how his family. That was what made his family realize that he's gay, and that's what led to his beheading. But this is why some people are saying that this shouldn't have been on his documents. Rivka, you want to say something? You had your hands up.
Yeah, I'm wondering if his family, if it was on his documents, or if someone leaked it to them. Or his parents saw it, because it said that they saw this on his, whatever his documents are, but I don't, it was an exemption card. You're right. It was on his exemption card because he was leaving and he came home to get the card.
Right. And they saw
so
it on
his family must have looked at it.
Right. This is when your family is worse than the government, right? Because the government is like, the government is not okay. So a lot of people don't understand. In Iran, you don't get punished for being gay. Okay, you get punished for acting on being gay, right? So like the government basically over there consider this man to be gay, but there's no punishment for that. And they just said, okay, so you have a mental disorder, so you don't have to do military service, right? And he was going to, now that he was off military, he didn't have to do military service. He was going to use his military service card, which I got one as well. So here's the thing: in Iran, you can't leave the country once you reach a certain age until you do your military service or until you become exempt from doing military service, right? So I have that card. I had to get that card myself before I was able to leave Iran, right? So as soon as he got that card, he knew that Iran is not a good place for him.
He could go to Turkey.
No, so he was going to go use that card to be able to leave Iran and go to Turkey, right? So that was his like ticket. That card was now his ticket to freedom, right? So he was going to go get it to be able to leave, but his family saw the card, and they ended his life, which is so sad. Like he was this close to making it out and surviving.
I was going to say that they also, I mean, it was all this trickery. You know, he was part of the reason is he knew he was afraid of them. And that was, you know, he feared his family. And then they tricked him and said that his father wanted to speak to him. And that's how they got him to go with them. So it's just this horrible ruse that your family members are perpetrating on you, including your half brother, and implicating your parents in it. Oh, you know, whether they knew or not knew, now they're being, you know, a pawn in this whole thing. And that's why he went with them, you know, and it's just, it's really sad and very disturbed that, you know, because this guy's thinking, oh, maybe I'm leaving the country. You know, maybe my father, this may be his last chance to see his father. And they know this, you know, it's horrible.
And imagine like this being happening. Like imagine that you feel safer to tell the government that you're gay than telling your own family. Like an Islamic theocracy, right?
They
This man is
people for acting on it.
Yeah, for acting on it. Well, Susanna, you don't have your name right. For in Islamic theocracy, for when they but he knows that they're not going to do anything to him if he hasn't acted on it. He feels safer to tell an Islamic government that, hey, I'm gay. Can I not do military service? But he had to hide it from his family. Like, that's how bad his family is. That his number one fear is his family beyond an Islamic theocracy. And eventually his family was the one that executed him, not the government. The government was actually gave him the ticket to be able to run away.
Inadvertently, yeah. But I also wanted to highlight this because, I mean, well, Armin can speak to this more, but I don't think this is very common.
No.
Like an honor killing for being gay. Like last summer, there was a month where there was a shocking number of honor killings in quick succession of young girls. But you were saying that's actually pretty uncommon and rather like shocking. But then this also shocked me because I was like, I don't think. Well, you can speak to it.
No, I mean, it depends on. Okay, so it's not common based on how some people think what's happening in Iran. So it is common if you think like once a year honor killing is common, like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying relative to what people think, right? Like a lot of people don't understand that. They think like, oh, Islamic country, this must happen every Tuesday. Like, no, this is shocking. This is shocking news. I mean, it does happen like maybe once in a while, and it does happen in a rural area more than major cities, but it's not. I mean, any amount of this is extremely too high, right? But it is like a shocking news even within Iran, like something like this. Like this was major news, even within Iranian media, as something that shocked the conscience of people, right? Both Iranians inside and outside of Iran. So it's not like, I mean, it is, if you think it doesn't happen, then actually it is common based on your standards. But if you think that this is something that happens every week, then no, it's not that common, right? So it really does depend on what you mean. But it's the problem with people who think like, oh, of course, Islamic country, of course, this happens all the time. The problem with that line of thinking is that it's not, first of all, it's not true. And also it numbs people to it so much so that they wouldn't want to take action against it, right? So they act like this is something to be expected in Iran. So you feel like, well, of course, it's Iran. And then you don't think like, well, this is the natural way of things happening in a country like this, which is not. And there's no desire to respond to it in a way that will make it less happen less often, right? So that's the problem with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to highlight, like, is just to remind people that there's a big difference between like maybe official state policies or attitudes of, state authorities versus attitudes and values of everyday people. Like a good example is how shocking it is or unusual and kind of looked down upon it is like say in Iran when a man will prevent his wife from leaving the country. Like, to actually use instances of Sharia law to enforce power in that way. Like it's not actually as internally and popularly approved of as people like to stereotype or generalize.
So Marcia is asking something good. Have the family members been arrested yet? I'm assuming yes, right?
Yeah, those are the reports that I've heard.
Yeah, and I think like, do you know anything about the potential punishment for this?
No, I don't. And I know that under Iranian law, like a family member or a parent will receive a lesser sentence for murdering a girl within her family. Like, I don't know if there's any similar attitude or exception towards a gay man,
No,
but
he no.
it would be a larger punishment than if he was
Yeah.
a young woman.
I think the punishment would be for the family members for them for him was going to be higher than if it was an honor killing of a girl.
I have a
So
question. So I've seen situations where family members have honor killed other family members. I think Pakistan was one and a couple other places. And then there's the family can choose to forgive that person instead of them going to jail. Is that a possibility in Iran?
there's I don't know the details, but I know like you could
Play
yes there
like a blood price or something?
blood price, blood money. There's something associated with that. So yeah, so there's something like that, which make that's why the punishment for killing your own family members is like less because the crime was done against you. Like it's like and it's so weird. I don't know. I have to actually look into that. But yeah, you are correct. That's kind sometimes a bit. A lot of the punishment depends on whether the family forgives you or not, which is still stupid because the main crime was against the person that is not there to defend themselves.
And also against the state, because the state has a interest and an obligation to prevent people from murdering each other.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Anything in the live chat that we need to highlight?
Not really.
All right. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes.
Next news.
Next news. Many American pastors quitting after 2020 challenges. So this was very interesting. The year 2020 has been challenging for pastors in running congregations due to the general decline of organized religion in America. Barna Group, a research firm, found a recent survey, found in a recent survey of Protestant pastors that 29% said that they had given serious consideration to quitting being full-time ministry within the past year. A recent follow-up survey showed that about a third of the respondents said that they considered leaving the church. Brandon Cox, a serving pastor, stated that the trifecta of the I'm thinking what to say for YouTube. The disease that's going around, the 2020 election, and the racial reckoning in response to the death of George Floyd hit like quote a wrecking ball. So meaning like these three big events really torn the church apart. His church, Grace Hills, shut down in-person worship at the beginning of the disease that's going around, which prompted people to leave the congregation. More left when the church reopened, but required masks. In some churches, members, especially families, left when the services went online and just haven't come back. Jeff Weedle, a pastor from Wisconsin, began a blog at failingpastor.com detailing some of his concerns about continuing in the church.
I'm tempted
Oh
to
boy.
celebrate this. I don't know, but because it came at the cost of like the events that led it to here, maybe makes it hard to celebrate this. But I mean, there's a every time like a global crisis happens, people realize and people adjust to it. There's a lot of discovery on how things could be that don't need to go back. Like people get used to doing things the new way. I mean, think about how much office spaces is now going to be saved because a lot of companies realize, like, wait, we are actually paying for all this office space that we don't really need. Like people, like a lot of companies are going to tell people, like, you actually don't need to come back to office. Like this is actually okay. Like you can still work from home, right? So, so a lot of companies are going to benefit from that cost reduction. However, a lot of organizations like churches, which make most of their fundraising by having people inside the church, are gonna. A lot of people are like, wait, so you're telling me, like, because throughout this whole thing, a lot of people were told, like, oh, we could still do the thing and through live streams, and you could be at home, and here are 10 ways. Here's a blog and 10 ways to connect to God without going to church. And people are like, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
You're telling me. Wait a second. You're telling me that I don't have to dress up. I don't have to commute. I don't have to, like. Yeah, I mean, if God is okay with this now, I think He's going to be okay with it always. Right? So I don't know. So I mean, a lot of people like got used to it, and they're like, yeah, I could get my dosage of God without in my pajamas. I don't need to go anywhere for this. Oh, Rivka.
So, yeah, I think that that's true. But I do think that what a lot of people like about church isn't so much the God part, it's the community interaction, the support network, all that. So there's definitely a market for people who want to go to church and, do church stuff. But what I think that this is really reacting to, and the pastor that they interviewed in there alluded to some of it, is the polarization of the church environment itself. That it's difficult because you can't do anything without it turning into a us versus them side sort of thing, whether it's wearing masks, not wearing masks, whether it's, going online or staying, everything is a moment to make it an us versus them sort of, oh, now you're one of them. You want us to wear masks or, so I think that that's kind of what I hear a lot of them responding to too. And if that's the case, there's probably parishioners who are having the same issues. And they probably think, well, I don't need to expose myself to this every week. I can do something else, or I can find different people to hang out with and have community that doesn't have anything to do with religiosity.
Oh my gosh. And what's so interesting about this article is they profile a lot of these different pastors, and they express basically that. So like one pastor, the one that I mentioned at the end, who has this blog called Failing Pastor, he talks about like, then what he called the quote stupid feuds about politics and the global disease put him over the edge. People at church seemed more concerned about the latest social media dust up and online I don't even want to talk about this wacky ideas. One church member called him the Antichrist for his view on the disease going around, and then they want to focus on those things more than learning about the Bible. He said Sundays had become filled more with dread over what could go wrong next. He eventually decided, I don't need this anymore. That's a direct quote.
Exactly, which is exactly, yeah, you don't. Because if the reason you're there is for him, maybe too, this people being together, having fun, supporting each other, talking about, Jesus or something, or not, eating macaroni salad when somebody has a new baby, bringing it. If the reason you're doing that and then those people become insufferable, you really don't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to shout out to Secular Rarity. I don't know, said I had great.
Saying Rivka always has great takes.
Thanks.
You're not wrong. And I saw another good comment. Bjorn, I think this is kind of funny. I thought being clergy was a calling to spread the word, but I guess having joy at work trumps in importance. Which, I mean, I want, like, it's idealistic, but, I want people to enjoy what their work is, but that is kind of like a theological bind, right? Like this one guy talks about, like, up until 2020, we had a fantastic time. I'm like, who says that God's always going to make it a fantastic time for you?
But I think that really...
What kind of attitude is that?
But I think them saying that really elucidates that they may not necessarily be called. This is like just a job, and now it sucks. And
and it's very interesting.
I don't like my coworkers anymore.
They talk about trying to find a job afterwards, and how difficult it is, and how having a life in ministry doesn't prepare you for, not to say the real world, because they're in the real world, but, a more competitive marketplace.
Yeah, quelle surprise.
And I thought that was so interesting. And also really unfortunate for those people. Like, think about of these pastors who are quitting, like, those will even go on to, like, lose their faith. They're like, what do I do? I have no skills. I gave this my whole life, It's tough. But I thought that was very interesting and kind of highlights a big shift that's going on in America right now. That I think we'll see stuff like this more and more as, they face administrative difficulties just due to the generalized decline of organized religion in America, let alone any additional economic problems.
And, I was going to say, you're right. I do feel bad that they don't have any marketable skills, but I'm sure there's some niche market for, I used to be a Christian pastor and now I don't believe books or speaking tours.
Speaking of the rabid atheist, who is a former pastor or preacher, saying ministry is a joy sucker. 20 years in it have told me that ministry does not prepare you for having a good job. Thus, the Clergy Project and other organizations to help them. Yeah. So, guys, I mean, I guess that's your answer right there, Rivka. Go check out the Clergy Project.
Oh yeah, I know. I do know Clergy Project. I was trying to make a bad joke about how, they can always have a career in talking about how they're not a minister anymore.
Fair enough. They could.
All right, Narumi is saying the stress is already too high. Nobody can blame the pastors for quitting. I can't blame them for quitting, but I can blame them for not quitting earlier. I can blame them for being a pastor to begin with. I can blame them for peddling nonsense and spreading dogma. So yeah, quitting, I don't blame them for that. But the fact that they are a pastor at all and lying to people and spreading dangerous beliefs and wasting people's time and contributing nothing to society while they're doing it, waste of time and energy, not just for themselves, but everybody that comes to the church. I blame them for all those things. And I hope more of them lose this job. I hope all of them lose this job so that they could go and actually contribute something more meaningful to society.
To paraphrase Bill Maher, if your pastor can quit religion, you can too.
Yeah.
So I think, it might make people think, well, he's just quitting. I could do it too.
Right. All right, hold on. Let me bring the next news. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes, we can. Oh, very into this.
All right, next news.
Next news, renewed calls to end Spain's blasphemy laws. So this is a little bit of older news, but I just learned about this past week, and so I wanted to cover it because I'm a nerd about these kind of things, and I want to make an important point. So in February 2021, the Justice Commission of the Spanish Senate brought forth a motion calling on the government to revoke Article 525 of the Penal Code. Article 525 acts as a de facto blasphemy law, penalizing offenders with a fine of up to 12 months of their salary. And I was like, what does that mean? I looked it up. They can take 8 to 12 months of your salary. That's the punishment. I thought that was crazy. Anyways, the motion received cross-party support, excluding the People's Party and the Citizens Party, who voted against it. Moves to repeal blasphemy have long been debated in Parliament for years. The Spanish Congress of Deputies voted 180 to 166 to abolish penalties for blasphemy in October 2018. More than 100 academics, writers, and activists signed an open letter asking for the abolition of blasphemy in December 2020. In addition, in February 2021, when international condemnation followed after the conviction of Catalan rapper Pablo Hasél, the government declared that it would amend sentences for laws restricting freedom of expression, including its blasphemy law. Go ahead.
So if they won all these votes in Congress of Deputies and other places, what has to happen for it to actually be repealed? If it appears that, they've got the numbers.
To be honest, I have
the king.
No idea.
I mean, Spain
don't,
still has a king, but I don't think he runs the country or anything.
To be fully transparent, I don't know how Spanish law works.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rivka, I cannot answer your question. If anyone here happens to understand the laws,
that's why
Spain,
I'm at.
Please answer my question.
Yeah, that's sort of why I put it out there. Like, how? So, what happens now? Do they have to? Does it have to be legislated somehow? They have to rewrite a law saying, this law doesn't. It's interesting. The End Blasphemy Coalition says welcomes the state's decision to review. So, okay, here's what's going on. Once all this went on, now they're reviewing it, urging the authorities to repeal it outright, right? Rather than, so yeah, I guess they have to just put forth a motion amongst themselves and then vote on it as an entire body.
Mm-hmm. But I wanted to highlight this for a few reasons. So, one, I think it's a good reminder to everyone that there are fully what we'd call like developed nations, first world, Western European nations that still have active blasphemy laws or laws that are de facto serve as blasphemy laws. And it's really important that these countries, such as Spain, repeal these laws. One, because of the 2/3 of the countries in the world that have blasphemy laws on the books, I can't remember exactly, but roughly half, or like 41%, don't actually enforce those laws. And so it's important for countries like these to take steps forward to repeal blasphemy laws, because them having it on the books, even if it hasn't been enforced in decades, sometimes even hundreds of years, it validates them in these types of laws, this type of legislative and potential for prosecution. It validates it in countries where it is a much more high stakes environment. It is a much more serious charge, and the fervor around it is much more dangerous. It gives legitimacy to laws like this in other countries where it comes at the cost of people's lives. Also, it's just a matter of free expression. So at the end, I brought up one of the things that prompted this review in February was the situation involving this Catalan rapper. And, the whole Catalan conflict isn't something I want to get into right now. But he actually didn't violate a blasphemy law, but he was arrested for I don't know how to say, but like lèse majesté, like basically like insulting the crown, which sometimes people consider a form of blasphemy. You're like blaspheming authority. And he was charged and faced a sentence for this. There was huge backlash to this. And so even though it wasn't strictly blasphemy, that's what prompted people to go, let's go back and look at all of the laws that restrict freedom of expression in this country. Let's see how we can improve across the board. And I really liked that attitude. And I think it's really important to not see like insult to authority versus just religion in general, like separate. No, this is all together in violation of international law regarding free expression. So yay, Spain. I'm loving this forward motion, and let's be a role model.
I think that's a really salient point to make, to talk about, being free from undue authority from the government and religion and linking them like that, because that's part of what led to the idea of free expression and having those freedoms to say is the Enlightenment. And a lot of that was throwing off the religious authority, but also not allowing the state to function in the same way in terms of restricting what you can say or expressions that of your beliefs, for example, getting married to someone of the same sex. So I think it's very good, and good job, good commentary, Susanna.
Oh, thank you. Can you tell I read and think about this a lot? Katie is saying, wait, blasphemous art against the Spanish crown and the Spanish Inquisition? That would be pretty good, actually. The situation of this rapper is very interesting because he's like a far leftist. And so they basically try for Catalan independence. So they basically tried to say that he was like inciting or glorifying terrorism. I'm using coded language for YouTube, but people took a big issue with that because they're saying this is his political expression. Like, you can't just say that because he's for independence.
Just say radical movements.
Okay.
Because a lot of people might get confused when we say terrorism, and we don't want to explain it every time. Just say like radical movements or something.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right. By the way, my standard response to this is like,
I already know. Should I say what it is? Spain has a blasphemy law. This is 2020. Right. This is a Western European nation. Why did they have a blasphemy law? And this time I'm with you there.
Yeah, no, like people are like, oh, yay, progress. I'm like, wait, they still have blasphemy laws in Europe?
Actually, like, this is bad news because this hasn't happened yet, Susanna.
All right. Okay. Wait, can we clap for the next news? Where's my mouse?
I'm not into it. We actually have a lot of news we can clap for this week, so we don't have to force it when it's not the best.
Okay, so next news.
Okay, next news. Arrested Yemeni model in danger of forced virginity test. On May 7th, Amnesty International reported that a Yemeni model, Intisar al-Hamadi, is at risk of undergoing a forced virginity test. She was arrested 2 months prior, for challenging social norms. According to the London-based NGO, according to a London-based NGO, NTR was detained in February by plainclothes personnel in Sana'a. The 19-year-old was interrogated while blindfolded, physically and verbally abused, and subjugated to racist insults. She was also forced to confess to several offenses, including drug possession and prostitution. Her lawyer came to know about plans to subjugate her to a so-called virginity test from a prosecution team member. On April 21st, she was brought before public prosecution for questioning in the presence of her lawyer. There, her lawyer witnessed at the end of the interrogation Intisar being slapped by the prison manager. On April 27th, the public prosecutor prevented al-Hamadi's lawyer from accessing her file, and a gunman then threatened him and told him to drop the case.
Wow. So I find it so interesting because we were talking about state and religious authority previously when we were talking about Spain, but here's another example of it and the charges not abiding by cultural norms. I mean, that's so arbitrary. It could mean anything that anybody wants it to mean, which is exactly why it is arbitrary, and so it's really it can also put you in a dangerous position from your family as well. If the state's not doing it, anything that anybody perceives as somehow not playing the game, that could be anything because it's not stating what exactly she did.
Yeah, and so one thing that I didn't really mention is it's like the Houthi authorities that have basically kidnapped her and are putting her through this prosecution. So this is not like an internationally recognized government. You know, it's kind of, they control so much of Yemen. It's like a de facto
It's technically
government.
the government, though.
Yeah. But very, I mean, we the Houthis, we can't even talk about like what they believe in because it's not good. It's no good. And so in terms of what her challenging social norms were, she growing up, she was always like very into fashion and she wanted to pursue an career in that industry. And so she became famous on social media for her photos of her wearing like traditional Yemeni clothing. And then she, you know, as she gained popularity, would post photos outside of, you know, Islamic dress code, including like not wearing the hijab, for example, at different photo shoots. And this is when she started to face a lot of criticism, which has culminated in her basically being kidnapped by these authorities, put through this so-called prosecution, and is at risk of going through this. Last I checked, it hasn't happened. This virginity test, which is basically just like state sexual abuse. For what end? I don't understand. So what, like, obviously it's completely invalid. It's a form of sexual abuse. But what are the results of that supposed to tell you anyways?
How
does that factor in?
I'm telling you, this is what they're going to say. So if she's not, then okay, well, she's a bad person for not being a virgin, but also she deserves the punishment because, see, she violated cultural norms. She's not a virgin. It's like this solution looking for a problem.
Yeah. It's so crazy. And just the conditions in which she's gone through since she's been kidnapped and what happened in her interrogation. And she's also subjected to a lot of really intense racism because she's also Ethiopian, which adds a whole nother layer to this. And then not to mention she's been forced to sign pre-written documents, you know, with her fingerprints while she's blindfolded. It's really, and yeah, Armin?
No, finish.
No, go ahead.
All right, so I want to highlight this, which is very interesting. Let me finish my point, okay? Hossein is saying, do not try to associate these people's actions with Islam. People are not their religion, okay? Sure, okay, Hossein. We won't do that. However, I will scroll just a few comments up, and we will just examine your views, your Islamic views on what's okay. All right, just me.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
Yeah. So he's like, Hossein is like, hey guys, this is not Islam, okay? Don't blame Islam for what these people are doing, okay? Sure, Hossein. How about we associate Islam with your beliefs instead? How about we do that, okay?
Let's go.
Here's
1 minute. 1 minute prior.
1 minute prior.
The amount of self-awareness.
If she wasn't committing zina and adultery, zina is adultery in Islam, basically. She's saying, Hossein is saying, if she wasn't doing adultery, she will be fine. So Hossein is saying that she deserves this. She deserves the punishment if she had committed adultery. So Hossein, we always say here on Atheist Republic that we don't need to embarrass Islam because Muslims do the 90% of the job for us, 95% actually, right? We don't even have to say anything. We just have to highlight your comments. We don't need you doing our work for us. People are like, oh, Armin, why are you guys embarrassing Islam? This is not right. Why are you attacking a religion? We don't. You do it for us. We just shine a light on you. So thank you, Hossein. You make our work so easy. Thank you. Anyways.
Also, I don't even know if I want to talk about it because it seems like we're validating it, which isn't true, but like virginity tests aren't reliable. That's not a thing. There are so many different ways in which a woman can lose her hymen while she's still a virgin.
Right.
Like it teaches it, and I don't even want to say you'll learn nothing from it because then that makes it seem like that's something that's worthwhile and valid to begin with. It's not. But I just think it needs to be said that, oh, if she hasn't committed zina and adultery, she is fine. Well, she could have never done it and still not have a hymen, and suddenly she's not fine.
All right. And let me also say something else. When you have sex, you don't lose anything. You gain an experience, a great experience, okay? So don't talk about having sex as in losing virginity. Talk about it as gaining an amazing experience, okay? You win when you have sex, have more sex, before marriage, after marriage, all the time. Just make it consensual. Just make it between adults.
During marriage? Can you throw in during marriage in there for the
Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Nope. Oh, you caught that quick, Rivka.
That's good. That's good, Rivka. That's good. That's good. All right. So hold on. Let me see. Can we bring the next news and can we clap for the next news?
Yes, we can.
Oh wow. Okay.
I turned it around this week.
Next news.
Next news. Victory! Texas government cannot block atheist holiday displays in the Capitol building. So, on May 6th, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, yay, also known as FFRF, won a major lawsuit against the state of Texas. They were granted the right to place displays representing secular celebrations in the state capitol building of Texas. This decision ensures that similar constitutional rights will be granted to other organizations. In 2015, during a nativity scene in the Texas state capitol, FFRF, applied to put up their own display of a secular nativity. The display featured the Bill of Rights, 3 American founding fathers, and the Statue of Liberty. If you scroll down, I think there's a picture. There was also a sign that wished everyone a happy winter solstice. Governor Greg Abbott demanded it be removed. Eventually, FFRF sued over the unambiguous viewpoint discrimination. In June of 2018, U.S. District Court Judge Lee Yeakel ruled in favor of the secular organization. In April 2020, the 5th U.S. Supreme Court of Appeals also ruled in favor of FFRF, saying that the lower court should issue a more expansive remedy to protect FFRF's right to place displays in the future. And recently, on May 6th, Judge Yeakel ruled in favor of FFRF and made sure their displays can continue alongside their religious counterparts.
Rivka? Yeah.
No, I was just putting up the fist like, yeah, you can't stop us.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Again, Freedom from Religion Foundation, I hope more people in the United States realize how important the Freedom from Religion Foundation is. I just wish that there were more organizations like Freedom from Religion Foundation in other countries, right? Like that they were modeled based on Freedom from Religion Foundation. You know, I think more countries need a Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Like a secular watchdog, basically.
Yeah. And I don't know if Americans realize how lucky they are, how much the Freedom from Religion Foundation has done in the United States. A lot of people don't know that these people, how many of their rights have been guarded because of the work that they do. So,
yeah, it's insane.
So to your point, it would be great if there, and there's the secular society in England that, is kind of brings up a lot of these points and makes certain things known about, religious overreach. But part of the thing that makes it work so well in the United States and is because we do have a document that specifically states that the government can't make any establishment of religion. Thusly, they call it the Establishment Clause. And when you allow one display that's religious but don't allow another, that's basically making an establishment of religion. And so this is built on years and years and years of precedent. So I find it interesting that governors or municipalities, that they don't realize this, that they waste their constituents' money continuously, because when you lose a lawsuit, most of the time you have to pay all the legal fees, so and you also have to pay the pay to fight the law, the lawsuit, instead of just saying, okay, you can put up your display. So you waste taxpayer time and money. And there's a huge precedent for this. This happens again and again and again all over the country. And often all it takes is a letter from Freedom from Religion Foundation reminding someone, whether it's a school principal or a governor or a mayor or whomever, of the court's decisions in previous cases about religious displays, or not allowing allowing one religious display but not another. And most of the time they cease and desist. But the fact that they have so many lawyers constantly doing this shows you how much of this how many of these violations rather are going on continuously all over the country in lots of different large and small ways.
That's a very good point, Rivka. The Rabid Atheist has a good comment, saying Christians are now regretting forcing displays because now it has opened the door to everyone and as an unintended consequence. They would have been better off not allowing them at all. For their purposes, yeah, that would have been more strategic.
Well, and they have done that when they've been forced to allow either the Temple of Satan or Satanic Temple or some other, Wiccan or something, because there was a case in Florida where they were allowing a church to come in and give out little, religiously themed, coloring books, Bible coloring books. And so the Satanic Temple came in and they had, the little, Satan for Junior sort of coloring books. And they had a whole bunch of other kid themed material. And the school board said they weren't allowed to come in. They couldn't go to school. They sued. They won. They were forced to allow them to give out their, Satan Junior material. And so then what happened is the school banned any organization religious not from giving out anything. So rather than comply with the law, they just said nobody's allowed to do it.
And the funny thing is that that's a win-win for the Satanic Temple. That's a win either way.
And that's the point that they're making, is you shouldn't have been allowing people to, indoctrinate children in a public school without the parents' consent.
But I think Armin has a really good point about how much this organizations like the Freedom from Religion Foundation are needed in other countries. So guys, I encourage you guys to looking at going into law. Like this work like this, it doesn't just happen. It takes teams and teams of lawyers.
I think they have 11 now.
That's awesome. And so guys, like if you want to see stuff like this in your country, like get involved with the law. And I think, yeah, that's awesome. We need more stuff like this. The Rabid Atheist is saying, the Freedom from Religion Foundation have done a lot of work just reminding people of what they can and cannot do. Very good point. It has stopped a lot of violations. That said, a lot of violations don't get reported. That's also true. But I'm glad that I know where to turn when something's amok. I'm just going to put out a bat signal for FFRF. Any other comments?
No, can we clap for the next news? No.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, next news.
Okay, so next news. Xinjiang imams defend China against criticism of Muslim genocide. So this is a plot twist, or is it? On May 13th, Muslim leaders from the Xinjiang region at a reception for international diplomats at the end of the month of Ramadan renounced Western accusations that China is suppressing religious freedom. The day before, human rights groups and Western nations demanded access for United Nations human rights experts to the region. Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, condemned China for crimes against humanity and genocide against Muslim Uyghurs. Adu Kip Tamur Nizaz, who heads the School for Islamic Studies in Xinjiang, said that the U.S. denies its human rights violations, citing the U.S. involvement in disputes in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other Muslim countries. The imam of the historic Idka Mosque in Kashgar Mamat Juma said that all ethnic groups in Xinjiang are grateful to the ruling Communist Party for restoring stability and promoting economic growth. Hua Shunli Ying, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, said that China welcomes all unbiased people from all countries to visit Xinjiang, but it is firmly against investigations that are based on rumors and lies.
Wink twice if you're being taken hostage.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is definitely a case of the Stockholm syndrome. I mean, there's a resemblance to certain people in history that I can't refer to when other concentration camps were being taken place by another regime during World War II.
Yeah. Yep.
There were some people in those camps that were in charge of keeping their fellow Hebrews. There were the guards, there were the people with the stick that betrayed their own people for the sake of, I don't know, maybe dying last, but I mean, this is such a common tactic among fascists, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they pick one of the good prisoners, the house N-words, I don't know, right?
In the concentration camps, they called them capos, the prisoners, doing the work of the guards.
Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, but don't mention the H word or the N word because YouTube will strike us down. But yeah, that's a good piece of information. Thank you. But yeah, that's basically what this guy's role is, right? In this situation, he's being used as a way. I mean, how it's so obvious too, right? Like this guy is doing the bidding of the CCP. They're just making it's like their puppet. They're like, hey, listen to this guy. He's a Muslim.
He's an imam. He's a faith leader. And you have all these reports that faith leaders are the most targeted. In fact, you guys, my understanding is that in the situation in Xinjiang, with the Uyghurs that are detained for often a wide variety of arbitrary reasons, and sometimes they're even made to choose their crimes after they've already been detained for months to years, is that there are different levels to being detained. Now, this is my current understanding. I could be wrong. But depending on the level of supposed threat that they basically deem you to be, you go to different detaining centers. And faith leaders are the ones who are put in basically these detaining centers where they kind of just like make people disappear. I'm not saying that they kill them, but it's just like I almost think of it as like a limbo or a purgatory. It's like, this is just where you are now. And it's because faith leaders are deemed to be the having the most thought crime, basically. There's a specific way that they put it that I can't remember right now, but basically it's like they're the most difficult to re-educate. And so they're put into like these like level 3 detainment facilities where they're just there for years, like possibly in perpetuity. It's horrible.
I need to respond to this. So Narumi is saying, not Stockholm Syndrome, mate. He's been either coerced or threatened by Beijing. Are we supposed to believe the hundreds of thousands of Uyghurs who say otherwise are lying? When did I say the hundreds of other thousands of people are lying? What are you talking about? I never said that. I never said that. I don't know why are you bringing that to me, one. Second of all, you don't know if it's a Stockholm Syndrome or not. You're not in this mind, in this person's head. They are either trying to survive, or they have been made to believe their own lies. There's no way you could tell which one is it all the way from across the world by reading an article and looking at this picture. You don't know. It is. There are situations where people who are the oppressed are made to fall in love with their oppressors and see them as these godlike, benevolent, caring masters that they have to bow their head to. And also, especially if you have a good position yourself and you have been picked from among the people to being put in a position of authority, and you look at your own conditions and you compare it to other people's conditions, sometimes it's possible for these people to be impressed and to be in line with the bastards that put them there, right? So it could be a threat. It could be that this guy was like, you know what, this is wrong, this is a lie, but I have to survive, and they're doing this out of fear. But you have no idea. This guy might believe his own nonsense. Rivka.
So, two things. I think Narumi meant that are we supposed to believe question as rhetorical. I don't think it was directed at anyone. I think she's saying, come on, are we supposed to believe that? Or he, sorry. Yeah. So I think that at least that's how I took it. But I was just going to say that. So this person is up there saying they're not repressing Uyghurs. Look at me. I'm standing up here. They're letting me stand up here and tell you that they're not doing what you say. So it's a way of, trying to make their situation valid because they're allowing me to tell you that they're not doing something.
Actually, exactly to Rivka's point, there were religious leaders from 5 mosques that spoke at this event, some in person, some virtually. And they all described, their prayers, the feasting for Eid, and they showed videos of people praying inside the mosque and people like dancing outside, which reminds me so much. I've literally seen tankies argue on Twitter. They're like, look, I found this video of these Uyghur people dancing on TikTok. They're not oppressed. Like, are you insane? Like, you found one video. So you very conveniently, the state comes and airs these videos of people having a great time, and we're just supposed to take that at face value. And to my point that I brought up earlier, the Uyghur Human Rights Project, which is a US-based group, said in a report on Thursday that it had documented at least 630 religious figures who had been detained or imprisoned in Xinjiang, mostly since 2014. The charges include illegal preaching and teaching religion to children, which is outlawed in China.
So I wanted to, just continue on what you were saying about the TikTok video or people dancing. Just because someone's being threatened or oppressed doesn't mean that they're not allowed to enjoy themselves when they have the moment to do that. So if people saying, look, they're smiling or they're dancing, so that means that everything's fine. It may not. It may mean that, sometimes when they have a moment and they feel comfortable, you don't know. And to say that people who are suffering aren't allowed to have fun or ever smile or, please. And because sometimes you have to do that in order to survive. that is how you survive.
Mhm.
And then you were saying about the videos that the government was they were showing of people eating and celebrating Eid. Very much reminds me again of the World War II era concentration camp films that they would, in Theresienstadt, and one of them, they brought all these kids in and gave them food and games and nice clean clothes in this area that they made specifically for the Red Cross or for their film. And the moment that was done, bye-bye toys, bye-bye nice clothes, bye-bye food, so it's hard to say whether that's,
Well, which is why we need organizations like the UN on the ground allowed in the area. More observers in the area.
I just want to say one more thing to Armin's point. So very much, a lot of people are suffering oppression, but there are sometimes people who, for whatever reason, politics, they buy someone off, they may be working with the government in order to help other people. You don't know. There's all kinds of stories of people appearing as if they're collaborating, but really it's a ruse. So you never know why someone would do some of these things.
Yeah, but we are applying Occam's razor because there's if we want to, the possibilities are endless, and we wouldn't be able to do any commentary on any news because of what actually really might be happening, right? But we're just going based on Occam's razor. You're muted, Rivka.
I was just saying, this is a phenomenon that happens amongst populations who are oppressed.
Right. All right. So before we go to the next news, something very interesting happened in our live chat that I want to highlight.
Oh.
So we have
live reporting.
Yes. Okay, hold on. So we have
breaking news.
Guys, let me just point this out. So we have multiple people in our live chat that hate us, okay? And they're usually very funny. So some of them are coming from an Islamic background, some of them are communist, and they come here to turn on us. But now they turn on here's an instance of them turning on each other. So we have Glorian to Stalin, who is a tanky communist, and he's Iran fights for Palestine, unlike Zionist USA, right?
Oh, and this is the best. I saw this.
Yeah. So we have a tanky that comes as you guys suck. Russia great, China great, Iran is great, yes. And but then we have another guy here that is a Sunni Islamist, and he also hates us, but now he's turning on the tanky. So he's turning on the tanky Shias don't represent Islam, they are apostates, Iran is going to hell. And I was no, Iran is bad. So the tanky is turning on the Islamists in the live chat. This is so
beautiful.
Our enemies are fighting each other.
Oh my god.
This is too good. Anyways, okay, let me bring up the
And I just sent you another article in the private chat that has a bigger picture that I think you would like.
Okay. I also sent you some questions in the private chat.
I answered.
Well, can we clap for the next news?
What do you think?
Next.
Okay. I won't be enthusiastic.
Okay.
Next news. American Hindu temple accused of using forced labor of so-called untouchables in Trenton, New Jersey. So this is in America. On May 11th, FBI agents visited a large Hindu temple in New Jersey to investigate a lawsuit against the temple's organization. The lawsuit claims that the temple was built by workers from marginalized communities in India who were lured to the U.S. and forced to work for very little compensation. The prosecution accuses the leaders of the Hindu organization known as, it's a really difficult name and it's long, so I'm just going to call it by its acronym, which is BAPS. So the Hindu organization, acronym BAPS, of human trafficking and wage law infringements. According to the case, more than 200 workers were coerced into signing employment agreements in India. the workers traveled to New Jersey under R1 visas, which are those given to those who work in religious occupations. When they arrived, their passports were taken away and they were forced to work from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Their compensation was $450 per month, which comes out to $1.20 per hour, where in New Jersey, the minimum wage is like $12 an hour. The exploited workers are Dalits. For those who don't know, those are the lowest step, or they're considered outside of South Asia's caste hierarchy. They're so low that they're even outside of this hierarchy. BAP's CEO, Kanu Patel, told the New York Times that he disagrees with the wage claim. So this is I thought this was very interesting. The Indian Wire had a very good article on this, and if you click on that news, you can see how huge this temple is. It's palatial. It's an estate. And I wanted to highlight how they are, well, one, shouts out to the FBI for coming down on them on this. But also how people can say, like, oh, well, this type of abuse can happen in any sorts of organization. It isn't necessarily religious. Well, I would like to highlight the fact that they exploited these workers on specifically religiously related visas. They wouldn't have been able to import them the same way if this wasn't under the cover of their religious status. It's literally the nature of the visa that brought them over. It's also a good opportunity to highlight the fact that the problem of the caste system is global. Okay, it doesn't stay in India. It follows the Indian diaspora, and that includes into temples and in America, including the foundation of how the temple's even built, is this caste discrimination and abuse and exploitation. Do you have any? Yeah.
No, I just have a question because I was doing multiple things at the same time, so I might have missed it. How were they forced to be here?
So my understanding is that they were basically coerced into signing these documents back in India. Now, specifically how, that's not clear to me. But then once they were here in America, their passports were taken away from them.
Wow. So this is slavery then?
Yeah.
If the passport, this is basically the same way like in Saudi, sometimes they treat Filipino workers. I mean, once you take someone's passport away from them, this is by definition becomes slavery because they're there without them having a say. Like they can't choose to leave now. You have taken away their mobility. You have taken away some element of choice away from them. Becomes like, by definition, becomes slavery. So this is Hindu-based slavery in the United States. Based on the caste system. Okay.
Yeah. Caste slavery here in New Jersey.
Right. So Rivka, you want to say something?
So you were asking some questions about coercion. I know they were paid, most of their money is paid in their bank accounts in India. So that could be part of the coercion, but they're only getting $50 in US dollars. But I'm guessing that they're also doing that because it's going to end up being cheaper for them. Mm-hmm. To pay rupees and supposedly deposited in bank accounts. So the whole thing smacks of just really very bad behavior, forcing people to work against their will, trafficking them basically to another country.
And it's really crazy to think. So some people have been stone cutters or construction workers as far back as 2012. And they are forced to, where did I want to get this right? Basically they had to live like on campus. They were kept in compounds under watch from BAP's, the temple's personnel, and threatened with basically return to India if they didn't comply. Katie had a good question about the caste system, or not a statement.
Katie has two good comments. Both of
Okay.
them. I highlight the first one, and you can highlight.
Katie is saying, especially the Indian communities in Western countries. I think talking about the problem of exporting the caste system. Hindus who live among people from different cultures are liberal enough, but the ones in the communities continue the nonsense, I'll say, because that's a bad word. And then Katie continues, the lowest castes are supposed to be slaves to the upper castes, even though apologists will say servant without using the word slave.
That's exactly how mistranslations happened in Islam as well when it comes for a foreign audience. When it comes in the Quran or in the Hadith, every time there's a slave, the translation to English is servant, but they're all slave, right? And yeah, the it's not just the by the way, the untouchables, the outcasts, they're not the ones described in scripture as slaves. It's the lowest caste, right? They are the ones that are described as their karma is to be slaves to the Brahmins, right? By the way, another thing I want to point out, like the reason why Susanna is not reading the curse word is not because we're like Puritans, okay? We love to swear. For some people might be new here, so they might not understand. But it's just YouTube is very sensitive about dirty words, so we don't say it.
And I also wanted to highlight something else. So someone who is not so near and dear to our hearts is the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi. It should be noted that he has close ties with this organization.
Oh, wow.
And was close to one of its very like transformative previous leaders who died about 5 years ago, who really popularized and transformed this organization.
Okay. This is something interesting.
But no, listen to this. So BAPS is a global sect of Hinduism founded in the early 20th century and aims to, quote, preserve Indian cultures and the Hindu ideals of faith, unity, and selfless service. So I just the preserving of Indian cultures and Hindu ideals, it gives me a certain taste. It gives me a little bit of a Modi, a little bit of a BJP taste. Sorry, you were saying?
All right. So another interesting thing has happened in the live chat. Okay.
Give us the play.
No, just a small thing, right? So we have our Muslim in the live chat that doesn't like us very much, and he's like, they worship cows. Is anyone surprised by them? And he's like, not surprised. It's a polytheistic religion who worship I don't know, but it means but it's very interesting because the person in the live chat that is trying to promote Islam, he is saying that Hinduism is bad because we have found an instance of them promoting slavery, right? And to be fair to Hussein, yes, Hindu scripture has endorsements of slavery in them, but Hussein, you are endorsing Islam. Are you serious right now? Do you not know does anybody in our live chat not know how much the Quran and the Hadith promote slavery? The excuses for slavery, not just slavery, but sex slavery. Yeah. This hypocrite is now trying to attack Hinduism for its endorsement of slavery. Amazing. The self-awareness is below zero. Unbelievable.
And also, this comment from Bjorn made me laugh in response to Hussein. Just, at least the cows are real.
Here's another thing. What are your thoughts about the fact that lower caste vote for Modi in overwhelming majority? Stockholm syndrome. Again, we already covered this. Like maybe falling in love with your oppressors. So
ostensibly, the BJP is an anti-caste organization.
Right, yeah, and that's another thing, right? So Hindutva, BJP, that is Hindutva, that is BJP's ideology, goes against one thing in Hinduism, which is the caste system. but promotes a whole bunch of other forms of bigotry and tribalism. But to be fair, Hindutva is against the caste system, but that doesn't make them not tribal, right? The tribalism that the Hindutva is interested in is more Hindu versus Muslim, not upper caste versus lower caste. So the fact that doesn't mean, so Hindutva and Hinduism are very related, but they're not completely one-to-one, right? So we have the hierarchy system in Hinduism, and the tribalism is mostly based on caste system, and that is within Hinduism, but it's within the scripture, right? Anybody that says that caste system has nothing to do with Hinduism, they don't know what they're talking about. But Hindutva, even though it is based on Hinduism, it's a more political ideology than Hinduism, even though Hinduism can be somewhat political, but Hindutva is a lot more political. And the hierarchy that they're more interested in is to discriminate against Muslims, not against the lower caste.
Or just non-Hindus.
Mostly against Muslims. But the thing is that if you are a lower caste and you see a version of Hinduism that is creating a new enemy and is asking you to join them as equals against this other threat, you might feel welcome finally in this new system. You might be like, oh, this is good. I like this brand of Hinduism a lot more than the older ones, so you might love it because now there's a new enemy and a new target that discrimination is against them, and you could join these other group of people, get united in hate, and liberate yourself from being the lowest caste.
Ooh, giving me Pakistan vibes.
Yes, exactly.
And I would just like to dunk on Hassan Hussein. Where in the Quran and Hadith does it say it's okay? Does it say slavery is okay? Where is proof? I'm not even going to get into the Hadith. I will refer you to Surat Al-Nisa, specifically Ayah 24. Okay, just do a little deep dive on that. Get into the exegesis on that. Okay, it's pretty easy. That's just one.
Sahih Bukhari is filled with excuses for slavery, and you don't even need to go to Hadith to see excuses for slavery.
Like I just gave you chapter and verse where you can find it in the Quran. Okay, because I just wanted to flex. I just wanted to flex how much I know the Quran more than you.
Yes, Hussein, you should be embarrassed. You're a Muslim, and this white girl knows Islam better than you. Amazing.
Zakir Naik, Susanna. Rip Hussein. And usually I'm very Hussein.
Not this Hussein.
Not this Hussein, I'm kidding.
Not my Hussein. Wait, and
now he's gonna think that we're like
secret Shias. That's good. He's gonna burn even more. He's gonna hurt us. Yeah. All right. Wait, can we clap for the next news?
Sure.
All right, next news.
Next news. Lutherans elect first transgender bishop. So I thought this was interesting. We had 2 Christianity LGBT related news this week. So on May 18th, Reverend Megan Rohrer, that's tough, who, by the way, uses they, them pronouns, was elected bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America's Sierra Pacific Synod. Which is like kind of a region. They are the first transgender person to serve as a bishop in the church or in any of the U.S.'s major Christian faiths. So this is like the first American transgender bishop. Rohrer, community chaplain. Rivka's killing me.
Just say Megan.
Okay. Megan. A community chaplain coordinator for the San Francisco Police Department was the first transgender person to be appointed in the ELCA in 2006 and served as pastor when called to serve Grace Lutheran Church in 2014. They are well known for advocating for LGBT rights and street activism, preaching, and writing. They have also attained minor celebrity status due to appearances on the television series Queer Eye and appearances in Time Magazine and Cosmopolitan. Megan said their priorities would be to hire communications professionals to lead a significant evangelism effort to promote low-income housing.
You know what I'm gonna say about this, right?
I know.
You already know. I mean, can you blame me though? Can you blame me though? Because is it not transphobic if you don't hold somebody to the same standards? Like, I criticize anybody for endorsing the Lutheran Church, right? Right. So I'm gonna hold people to the same standard. Like, this is you using your identity as a way to promote this backward, ancient, bigoted, harmful, wasteful ideology.
Or
We
a
should
lie, or something that
a
you
lie.
can't prove to be true.
Yes. Transgender people do not need the Lutheran Church. This is an ideology that was against LGBT to its very core. These are institutions and organizations that have held back progress. They do not need to be celebrated. They do not need to be promoted. They do not to be made, kept relevant. They need to be called out, right? And so I don't want somebody's identity to be used as a way to promote this barbaric ideologies, right? Again, the same way that we will criticize a cisgender bishop for spewing nonsense and endorsing an institution that needs to stop existing, right? We will do the same thing with the transgender bishop. This transgender bishop is spreading Lutheran nonsense, Christian nonsense, selling lies, making a living out of selling lies. And we will criticize, what is their pronouns?
They, them.
We will criticize them the same way we criticize cisgender people who are spreading lies.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, speaking of my own experience for living in the San Francisco Bay Area for almost 7 years now, which is crazy. It would be San Francisco where this happens. San Francisco has, I mean, I don't have any data or facts to back this up. It just seems like a disproportionate amount of LGBT faith organizations. There's a lot. It's really big. We even have basically an LGBT Catholic church. And so to me, this wasn't surprising that it happened here. I used to work for a lesbian rabbi. So, but
that's pretty been common since the 90s. Come on.
Yeah. But she was at a Catholic university, which makes it a little bit more interesting. But so given my experience of working for a lesbian faith leader, in an Abrahamic religion, their relationship to religion is very different. And in fact, I even have a book here called Queering the Text. And it's kind of this practice of basically applying queer theory to religious scripture, which is just fascinating. And they really like to highlight how the newer generations of LGBT Americans are more religious than previous generations have been. Or at least that's subsequent generations are becoming more religious. But however, the percentage of LGBT adults who are religious is actually still minority. But they would celebrate that. Look, we're being accepted. Things are getting better for us. It's yes, but also you're promoting something that is ultimately harmful for you and kind of validating this idea that is deadly harmful to other people in other places.
So I want to say that Armin said that, transgender persons don't need religion, right? And I want to finish the sentence by saying religion needs these transgender people, because going back, and the reason being, or any people, they need people to fill the pews and fill the collection plates. And so this is going back to the discussion we were having earlier, the first piece of news about the German bishops. Same thing. This is the customer shopping. It's good marketing. You've got to change your product and, your slogans to fit with the times if you want to keep the customers coming through the door. Number one. And number two, to your point about the younger LGBT people being more religious, this is exactly what I was talking about previously too, that oftentimes once things become more accepted and they have more equity, then they often, groups will want to put on the trappings of the dominant group that was denying them all these other things. So
exactly, it makes sense. It's very much a survival tactic. Like, look, we can gain power in these institutions too. We can gain representation in these institutions too, but is that worthwhile?
Right. Or we can be just like the people, anybody else. We're just like anybody else. And now that we are more accepted, or we can marry whom we choose, so therefore we're going to conduct ourselves very often just like the dominant group as well.
Mm-hmm. And religious leaders do have a lot of power in San Francisco.
Right. So, yes, transgender people are just like everybody else. And they could, just like transgender people could do so many great things just like everybody else, they could also spread lies and nonsense like everybody else. And we will criticize them just like everybody else. I do want to, yeah.
Sorry, this is just a thought that came to me. One thing that I remember about working for like an LGBT faith leader was a lot of it is trying to insert kind of your own stories into things. It's like, so we take this biblical story and how can we queer this? How can we make this queer? How can we make this something we like? And that always kind of confused me, because it's like, that's a very different way of thinking about God's word. And it's inconsistent. And it seems like you're just trying to insert or put something on it that it's not, but you just want to like make it that way.
Right. Okay.
Or you're uncomfortable with it, so you want to make it something you're comfortable with.
Guys, I've been waiting so long. I'm going to go for let me now finish a couple of points, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I need to start smacking some comments in the live chat, okay? So, secular rights saying, oh, Armin, you are right, Megan is still incorrect, but at least Lutherans are getting more accepting. You don't need acceptance from institutions that are representing lies and bigotry and dogma. It's not, what's happening is not that, what you should pay attention to is that it's not Megan that needs the church's acceptance. It's the church that needs Megan's acceptance. Megan is on the movement that is winning. Lutheran, like every form of Christianity, all religion as a whole, is on the movement that is dying. Megan doesn't need religion. Religion needs Megan. Megan is doing religion a favor because she's going up and she's winning. Religion is losing, and religion is like, Megan, take me with me. You were dying. And Megan is holding their hand. Megan is like, I'm winning without you. I don't need you. We will win without you. Okay? We don't need your acceptance. Your acceptance is irrelevant to us. We will prosper without you acknowledging us. You could go the way of the dodo. Okay? Let me see. Narum is saying, yes, we were anti-LGBT before, but we welcome them now, just like women's rights have become okay. Yeah, just like the church has fought against women's rights until it was forced to accept it.
So, they still do. What?
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. You welcome them. They should say, we don't need you. They're like, oh, we're dying. Our religion is dying. Look at it. We're opening the door to you. Please come keep us relevant. And you should show them the middle finger. You say, like, you could go F yourselves. We don't need you to open the door to us. That's what the response should be. What else here? Jim Holly is saying asking trans people to give up their families and religion all at once is a bit harsh. Hey, great thing. I'm not asking them that. It's like coming out of the closet once versus twice, once an atheist and again as trans. Okay, guys, when you encourage people to slowly question what they're endorsing, you're not telling them to like, hey, I hate you unless you do completely, just because you're highlighting something problematic to somebody, that doesn't mean that if you don't endorse baby steps. Okay, you can endorse baby steps without endorsing a crappy ideology, right? Just because I say, for example, Islam is a horrible religion and that deserves no excuse and no endorsement and no legitimacy and no authority, and no apologetic arguments or anything like that. That doesn't mean that, oh, if you're a Muslim, I do not accept you because you have to be an atheist and nothing else, right? Like if a Muslim is still Muslim, I'm like, if we could encourage them to be like, hey, maybe some of these views I need to rethink them or re-examine them, or even if they don't, okay, even if they don't examine anything and they just accept us criticizing their religion, I accept people. I also endorse baby steps, but baby steps happen because of this unforgiving positions that we have against nonsense, right? So we will keep our unforgiving positions against nonsense because they promote baby steps. All right. That just because I'm not willing to let go of these principles, that doesn't mean that slow progress is not welcome. So there's no contradiction between these two positions. What else want to say? Okay, this is the same thing. All right, here. Wait, is a Q word is now something that we can say on YouTube? I'm not gonna say it. A lot of LGBT people I know go from Christianity to Wicca or New Age. Okay, so that's not a question or comment. Okay, look at this. You guys really don't understand me, do you? Narumi is saying, follow-up question. Does that mean you throw progressive religious people who fight for rights of women, LGBT, etc.? No. How? Oh, God, this guy is so simple. I do not have to agree with you to endorse your activism, okay? Here's an example. Let's say somebody is a Muslim, all right? And they're fighting for Muslims in China, okay? I can work with this person. I could work with them alongside with them. I could promote their activism. I could endorse their activism. I could highlight them. I could encourage them. I could celebrate their activism when they're fighting CCP to fight for Muslim rights in China. I can do that. Does that mean that I have to say Islam is okay? Does that mean that I have to say Islam is does not promote slavery, that is not anti-woman, that is not anti-democracy, that is anti-secularism? I can still say those things. Even, let's say like there's a Muslim hijabi woman that is fighting for women rights, okay, or gay rights, okay. Can I work with this person? Yes, I can. Can I celebrate their activism? Yes, I can. Do I have to say, hey, Islam is there for pro-gay rights because I'm working with this Muslim woman who's fighting for gay rights? No. I can at the same time say Islam is definitely not pro-gay rights while working with a Muslim who is fighting for gay rights. Do you not see how this is not a contradiction? Rivka, you had your hand up?
Wait, this is hilarious. Do I not have to say that Islam is blah, blah, blah? Who's saying, yes, you have to say that.
Aw, that's kind of cute though. Yes, you do.
Islam is
You do.
best.
Islam is best. Aw. So okay.
Hussein's really giving it his all.
Yeah, right on cue. I love it. Nothing if not consistent.
Wow, look at this. Gasian American saying, just to be clear, I know you're not pro CCP. I wouldn't support you all otherwise. You just use a lot of the same vocab. No, I don't. I've read their vocab. This is not the same vocab that they use. In fact, they use better propaganda to make them seem like they're even pro-Islam, right? That's the kind of propaganda that they use. Also, I've heard that, Susanna, I have very credible reports. Rivka,
Oh.
you could correct me if this is wrong, because I know
Oh.
you also know your stuff, okay? I have credible reports that CCP members drink water, and they also eat food, and I think they sleep at night as well. I think, and I also think they defecate. I think like they have sex. Some of them have sex. So these are also similarities that I have with some CCP members. I don't know if this is for sure, but there's also these similarities.
I have it on good authority.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
as a medical professional, I can also agree that human beings do
Right.
the above mentioned actions,
Right.
whether you're in
How
CCP
dare
or
you,
non-CCP.
So yeah, these are other similarities that I have with CCP members.
Yeah, I mean, you do use strong language, but it's often against people's ideologies, not their rights, their humanity itself. And yeah.
Yeah. Also, here's another language that I use. Fuck the CCP.
Whoa.
Okay. I wonder, does the CCP use similar language now to me? Huh? Like, do they use that? No. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Armin, I approve of your message.
Okay.
So we can clap for the last news.
Yay!
This is hilarious.
Next news.
And I would like the live chat to tell us, because last news is always Atheist Republic news. I would like the live chat to tell us how this is Atheist Republic news. So this is just hilarious. Kangana Renault, who is a super right-wing shill Bollywood actress, was suspended on Twitter recently. And Katie already knows what this is about. Saying, yes, this is effing hilarious. And blank name gets the prize for saying she's the one who attacked Armin.
I'm a Hindu now because I think karma is actually real. I think karma is actually real. I don't know. Like, if there's any proof for karma, this is it. But go on.
Yeah. So, to give you guys the full background and why we're talking about this, back in September 2020, when Armin released the sexy Kali upon the world, Kangana had several million followers on her Twitter account. And she quote retweeted Armin. Actually, I can pull up exactly what she said about him. And basically set her millions of followers upon Armin.
And the police.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of people calling the police on you, to be fair. There was a lot of people.
No, but they actually filed. Head of police departments were actually coming after me as well. And they're filing reports against me.
Yeah.
So, it works, by the way. They managed to take out my Twitter account. So
yes. So because of all this Hindutva pressure, which Kangana definitely helped incite, Armin's Twitter is no mas, no more. And this crazy lady, I think her takes are absolutely insane, was recently banned on Twitter for inciting violence. And I don't know if we want to get into exactly what she was suspended for, because it's pretty bad.
We might get suspended on YouTube if we're just mentioning them.
Yeah. Should I read exactly what
she quote tweeted? Oh yeah, so I posted a picture. It's a picture of Kali, Hindu goddess Kali, and it was it was too sexy for a lot of Hindutva people to handle.
Yes.
And what did she say? Read that quote.
Well, you said, okay, I'm in love with Hinduism. I never knew you had sexy goddesses like these. Why would anyone pick any other religion? And this tweet had India quaking. And so she quote retweeted and said, haha, for you to use the power of art to sexualize the purity of Mahakali Bhairavi, wife of Kala Bhairav, mother of death, simply depicts your suppressed sexuality. You must be getting wet nights thinking of your mother breastfeeding you and pushing you out of her womb grow up, kid.
Yeah, total sane, total normal comment by a very sane, by a not at all abnormal woman. Very yeah. Who thinks about stuff like that? Like what? Like from insults, like when I woke up to that and I was getting so like because she had millions of followers and she quote retweeted me. I was like trying to see where this all came from, and when I saw the quote, I was like, what? I was so confused. I wasn't even and then I saw she's famous. Like she's famous. I was like, how does somebody so famous like say stuff like this without anybody trying to?
And it's also hilarious because she boosted you so much. Like
right.
we made. I mean, we were in the news more times than I could count that first week. And there were several stories on her reply to you, and there was like a little bit of back and forth. But if you guys are curious about why she was banned from Twitter, I highlighted a tweet from Katie which explains it, but I'm not really going to explain it because it's so it would drive YouTube insane in the algorithm, and I'm just not trying to play that game. But if you're curious, this is what happened. She's a huge Modi shill. And so since her comments about being banned on Twitter were hilarious too. I don't even know if we want to get into that, but she pulled the race card.
Oh my yes, I saw that.
So she went directly to the race card.
She went directly to the race card, but in one of the most racist things I have read in recent weeks. It was like the most racist way to pull the race card.
No, what did she say? Can you read that? Because that's actually
I have to find it. But she I'm going to paraphrase and said that
I have it.
This is another example of white people trying to tell brown
Rivka,
people. Okay, Rivka can read
it. Rivka, read it.
She said, Twitter has only proved my point that they are Americans. They are. And by birth, a white person feels entitled to enslave a brown person. They want to tell you what to think, speak, or do. Fortunately, I have my own platforms I can use to raise my voice, including my art in the form of cinema. Oh. But my heart goes out to the people of this nation who have been tortured, enslaved, and censored for thousands of years, and there is no end to their suffering.
What? No, you didn't even get to the part where she said that it is. Maybe I misheard. She said it was in the nature of white people to enslave other people.
That's what she said. A white person feels entitled. Yeah.
Right. Here's an interesting thing. Facebook's community standard agents, whatever you want to call them, I don't know, staff for India is in India. Okay, like Facebook staff for people who actually check your tweets of people in India or things that are being reported by people in India, they have a huge staff in India that it goes through them. So you're like, white people are oppressing me. It was probably other Indians who were working for Facebook that reviewed her posts, especially because Twitter. But especially because the one reason why they make it so that the local staff does this is because they know a little bit more. Actually, that didn't work for us because a lot of these people get butthurt from our sexy blasphemous art, and that's probably how I lost my Twitter account, because they're local from India, the people who review it. But one philosophy behind why it should be local to this country is because they understand if something is actually based on the culture and based on the nuances of the politics in that region, they might understand if something is a call for violence or not. So that's why sometimes the reviewers are... Yeah, go on.
Sorry, but that's very much to your point. She's using Hindi in her tweet. So part of the language, I'm assuming it's Hindi, that she uses in her tweet, actually the words that more specifically call for violence are not in English.
Right. So again, yes. it would require Indians working for Twitter to review it because they don't trust the automatic translation.
Yeah, she uses a different language to more like to basically illustrate what she's trying to imply, and also is making like barely veiled references to events that happened in India, like in the 90s, that was basically like a massacre. It was just,
All right.
this woman, but she's
All right.
so she's brought her nonsense to Instagram now, where she has continued.
And the art of her cinema.
Oh,
Right. All right. I need to highlight a few interesting things. Okay. Again, in the live chat. Okay. So our Muslim in the live chat, Hussein, today's my God, Hussein is so amazing. Today's been
on
such a
fire. Hussein,
Jesus,
please come back.
please come back, Hussein. So Hussein thinks she should be a Muslim. She seems like a smart lady, to be honest. Because Hussein is liking her because she's attacking us, and Hussein is like she should be a Muslim. It's so amazing. And also above, hold on, if I can find it. What did Hussein say? Oh,
that's also a hilarious comment.
Let me finish my point. Hussein is saying you get what you freaking deserve. Kangana is amazing, lazy. Respect to her. Okay, somebody tell Hussein how much this woman hates Muslims. Like Hussein, like look at Hussein. You hate us so much that in your hatred for us, you're endorsing somebody
Who
that
wants
hates
you
you, who wants you. Oh, I can't even say what she wants. I can't even say what she wants.
She
all
was
right?
banned for, I don't even know if I can say it on YouTube.
She was banned for wanting the big G on the people that you care for, Hussein. That's why she was banned, you idiot. Okay?
State sanctioned.
Yes, state sanctioned big G. That's what this lady. That's why she was banned
Also,
for attacking Muslims.
Do you
And
know
repeated abusive behavior too.
Oh, yeah,
It's
this
not
isn't
just
the
one
first time.
time, but this is repeated, not, changing her behavior.
And AGA brought up my next point, which is she's ranted on and on and on about love jihad. Hussein, do you have any idea what she would say to you wanting to make her a
Right.
Muslim?
So
Do you have any idea how psycho she is about her polytheistic practices?
I need to finish my point, though. You didn't let me finish because Hussein, you really have to go reflect on how stupid you are and how much rage you have against people who just say something slightly offensive about your religion, that you go endorse bigots like this. Like the people like me and Susanna and Rivka, we attack Islam, but we constantly fight for the rights of Muslims, right? We fight for the rights of Muslims in India. We fight for the rights of Muslims in China. We fight for the rights of Muslims everywhere, okay? But we attack Islam. And you, in your dumb minds, in your idiotic hatred for people who are attacking Islam, just managed to endorse somebody that is actually bigoted against Muslims as people. Bigoted in the most extreme way. So look at where your priorities are. You are in favor of bigots against Muslims because she is attacking people who are attacking Islam but defend Muslims. That should give you some pause. I know it doesn't because you're an idiot, but it should give you some pause. Also,
we literally defended Muslims in this stream.
Yes. One last point. Hussein is saying you get what you freaking deserve. All right, Hussein. Your words, not mine. Because we, before Kangana attacked us, we used to have less than 100 patrons. She, after her attacked us and after she got her mob attacking us, we actually were struggling. We didn't know if Atheist Republic is going to be able to survive financially. Because of her attack and because of the attention that this lady had brought to us, we immediately went from less than 100. We worked 15 years to get from 0 patrons to less than 100 patrons. Within a few months after she attacked us, we went from 100 to now more than 400 patrons because of this woman. Okay? This woman has been our #1 sponsor. Nobody has helped us more than this woman attacking us because of what she did. So if we lost our Twitter account, but now we became financially viable. We managed to survive financially because of her. It was a worthy sacrifice. Okay,
No, you get what you deserve.
words,
Thank you. You
your
deserve.
word. Yes. So you said we get what we deserve. Yes. Well, thank you so much, because we're now getting around $800 per blasphemous art, and that's what we deserve. Thank you so much for acknowledging that. Anyways, you wanted to say something? You want to?
Oh, Blank Name is just saying glory to Atheist Republic.
Yes. Oh, also, guys, if you want to continue,
Atheist Republic.
if you guys want to support us on Patreon, also link it to our Patreon is in the description. Help us get to 500, because 400 is enough for us to stay financially viable. But if we ever get to 500, that means that Susanna can focus on Atheist Republic full time. So link in the description.
Take
get
us
us
to
there.
the moon.
Yes.
I'm going to take us to the moon, guys. You have no idea what I got cooking up.
Rivka, did you want to say you had your hands up?
No, I'm just agreeing with what you were saying about how the irony of her, angry, abusive, bigoted comments then actually turns around into us having all kinds of supporters as a result of it. I find that really funny and ironic. And maybe it's karma.
Maybe it's karma. Maybe karma is real.
Yeah, maybe.
No. The ex-Hindus in the chat are like, no, vomit. No, karma is not real. Don't say that. Not even joking. Triggered.
Oh, well, and I understand their perspective too, because
no, we're joking.
Yeah, we are joking. That's where I was going, that we're joking. Because, I mean, that's what she would say, right? It must be her karma.
So funny.
By the way, the Hindu IT cell just lost their #1 advocate, so there's that.
Well, one of them, that's for sure.
We need to do a Kangana blasphemous art. We do need to do that.
I gotta think of something creative. What would she be doing?
All right.
With the other one we were talking,
sexy Kali.
Or somebody mentioned one about something earlier.
She should be making out with sexy Kali.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's a good
That would be great. Yes. Anyways, thank you so much to Kangana. While you lasted on Twitter, you are our #1 sponsor. You endorsed the Atheist Republic in such a way that we'd never imagined. None of our fans, none of the people that actually like us managed to ever bring us this much attention to Atheist Republic.
She's the patron saint.
Yeah, she's our patron saint, and she's the one that actually made because of her attack on us, she made atheism trend in India for the first time. It was atheism as a word was trending on Twitter for the first time in history because of her attack on Atheist Republic.
Well, because of sexy Kali.
That might be a way to do the blasphemous art, is making her like on a candle, and sexy Kali could be lighting it or whatever, like those saint candles.
That's funny. Yeah, I think. So Kangana has joined me and Armin in Twitter jail, except for different reasons. I still don't know why I'm banned.
Right.
So, anyways, I just thought that this was hilarious news. A lot of our community came rushing to us. Did you know Kangana? Was fan.
Yeah, so many people like good news for Armin. Like, you remember the good news for Hindus? I don't know. Is this good news for Hindus? Actually, I would go and say this is good news for Hindus.
Yeah, it is.
This lady was not a good, made Hinduism. I mean, showed how ridiculous Hinduism is. One person in the live chat was saying that she's the Candace Owens of India. That is so accurate.
Whoever said that, yes.
Who said that? That is so that is exactly
she's the what of India? I didn't hear what
Candace Owens.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Kangana to India is what Candace Owens is to the United States. Like right-wing celebrity that is making Modi is the Trump of India. Kangana is the Candace Owens. Perfect analogy. Mm-hmm. All right.
Well,
cool.
I hope everyone's having a good week. Stay safe, you guys.
Yes.
There's a lot of tough stuff going on in the world, especially to our family, our AR family in India, or just Southeast Asia in general. Thinking about our community, and we love you guys.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody, especially our Indian fans, both atheists and the Hindus and everyone else. thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the people who from India who supported us all this when we were getting so many attacks. Like honestly, like we wouldn't have been able to make it. With like we got so much hate coming from India towards us, but we were also overwhelmed by so much love and support. And honestly, their advice and their support really helped us go through all of that tsunami that came after us. Like I don't know what to say. Like without the people from India that constantly were giving us advice and talking to us and putting us in touch with people that we needed to get in touch with, we would not be able to make it. So thank you so much for that.
But also, before we leave, speaking of all this blasphemy we've been doing, another reminder to go subscribe to our newsletter, because our newsletter is where you can get a taste of this art that was began by the tsunami. Okay.
Yes,
We're
exactly.
continuing the legacy. We don't stop. We double down. So you can get that for free in the newsletter. Link in the description. And subscribe.
Bye, guys.
Because it is Dharma, it's Hikmah, and it's kosher.
Do it. Get our blasphemous art for free. Link in the description. Bye.
Bye.